Okay, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. After taking a 2 weeks break, it's actually quite challenging to create content every 2 weeks to 3 weeks lah. So I think the break was good. And if you find my content very useful or help you along the way in your decision making for your property journey, right? Please help me to like and subscribe. I'll be more than happy to continue to release more interesting contents for you guys. And to my viewers who reach out to me, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. I hope I help you all to generate some clarity in your property purchases or some options that we have discussed before lah. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to talk about today's topic. We are going to the fourth quarter of the year, and this period there will be quite a number of launches coming up. If I'm not wrong, there's about 5 upcoming ones, and I'm going to talk about 2 of which. One of them I have already mentioned in March period. You can check back. It's along Margaret Drive GLS that was sold last year, July 2024, and that is finally we have the name for the project. It is called Penrith. Okay, so today's content, we will do a comparison because I realized that a lot of people are talking about a project alone, like either they talk about Skye at Holland or they talk about Penrith. But I think since you guys can always check out the other videos, right, why not I do a comparison between Skye at Holland as well as Penrith. Both bought during the same period in July 2024 last year by various JV lah, different developers, and I would like to draw a comparison. Why do I want to say so? Because as we all know, Penrith is likely to be a hot shot, okay, which I'll mention later. So is Skye at Holland a good alternative, or is it also have a good attributes to look at? So what I'm doing today, right, is based off whatever information in the second week of September that developer has released. So that is actually quite a challenge also. Actually, developers, can you be a bit faster in releasing your information? It's not very difficult to do content, really. But of course, I hope this content still makes good sense to everyone lah. Okay, so let's carry on. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about Penrith reintroduction because I have talked about it in March period already. If you can check it out my video, okay. And then is Skye at Holland a good alternative? Okay, how do I do this comparison? I have a 8-point factor comparison. So we're going to look at number 1, the project details in terms of the land size as well as the density. Number 2, we look at the surrounding condos profitability. Then we compare the proximity to the MRT station. Number 4, we compare surrounding primary schools available. Number 5, we compare the surrounding condo supply respectively, as well as the number of listings that is available up to today, September 2025. And then we'll talk about the HDB clusters within Holland area, as well as in Queenstown area. And finally, we also talk about quality of life. I think this is something that maybe some of the real estate discussions missed out, because essentially home centers around amenities, centers around have a feeling of coming back home lah. So I think quality of life also plays a very important role in terms of deciding where you want to live in. And finally, of course, is the price gap analysis based on my wishful, optimistic projection of the kind of pricing that is likely to be launched by developer. Okay, and finally, of course, I have my conclusion. So stay tuned. Hope you guys follow me through the video and hope you find this is very interesting. And if so, help me to like, help me to subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Okay, so reintroduction of Penrith. Okay, if you go to my channel under videos, you can see one that is called Why Should You Look at Margaret Drive New Launch This Year? I think this is one of the very exciting projects to look at. Why do I say so? I do quite a fair bit of Queenstown upgraders. I sold quite a few condos in Queenstown area as well. So I feel that I can see how the natural demand in this area, kind of like a sweet spot. You are about 10 to 12 minutes to CBD. If you work in the west side, you're also about 10 to 12 minutes away. You're kind of like a symmetry to work. And probably if you are a Westie, this is an absolute upgrade location to you if you come from a HDB cluster, maybe in the Choa Chu Kang, the west side, Bukit Panjang area. aspiration, you know, you can upgrade over here, for example. So I think there's quite a fair bit of natural demand in this area, and also its proximity maybe to Orchard Road as well. If you go by Kay Siang Road at the back, you can hit Orchard Road by driving. In within 7 minutes you reach Tanling shopping center. Okay, so to me, why I want to do this comparison, at least it gives potential buyers during this period an alternative. Is Skye at Holland a good alternative? Why? Seemingly, it might be possible looking at the last few launches, especially like Springleaf, quite hotly contested, subscribed. So I think Penrith with only 400 plus units will be a very high chance a hot shot project given many good attributes as I mentioned earlier. So this becomes an inherent issue because your ability to purchase the place becomes very ballot based or luck based approach, which I think shouldn't be this case in most of the time lah. I feel that maybe I can impart you some ownership in your selection, so that your properties, you don't delay your property cycle, you don't make your choice based on luck. Okay, so let's see. So let's compare. Is Skye at Holland a good option to consider as well? Okay, so moving to the first point of comparison. Okay, land size and density. If we put Penrith and Skye at Holland side by side with a few of the condo features, like district, Penrith is in District 3, is a rest of central area. Skye at Holland is in District 10, core central area. Developers involved, Penrith is Hong Leong and Guaco. Okay, and then Skye is 4 developers involved: UOL, Singapore Land Group, Keng Leong, and Capital Land. Land tenure both starts last year, August 2024, so they acquired the land around that period. Okay, site area pretty much similar, maybe about 3,000 square feet, less than 3,000 square meters difference. So one is at 102,498 square feet for Penrith and 133,343 square feet for Skye at Holland, or 12,388 square meters. Okay, both have 2 blocks. Okay, both are 40 stories. Okay, number of units for Penrith is 462, while Skye at Holland is 666 unit. Okay, I'm not going through the same thing that people will say lah, 666, doesn't matter. Okay, car park lots to be confirmed for Penrith. Skye at Holland, you have 666 lots plus 5 accessible lots. Okay, expected TOP, Penrith to be confirmed, whereas for Skye at Holland, more information, October 2029 likely to TOP. I think Penrith should be around that period lah, given that there's only 462 units to build. Developers nowadays are quite fast in building this kind of small scale because they're very used to building the 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 units in 4 years or 5 years time. Okay, so given this, what does the implication when you look at the land size and the density? Previously, if you have followed me through River Green as well as a Promenade Peak comparison, right, you can see that I have mentioned before, Promenade Peak, because of the bigger gross floor area, they can build more units. So they never build more units. Okay, because of their bigger gross floor area, they can have 993 square feet per unit, which means kind of like quite a big space per unit. Or each unit get to enjoy quite a big amount of space. Okay, whereas for River Green is 668.2, which is significantly smaller. Whereas if you do a comparison with the OCR and the RCR region, Jadescape, which we all know is a very big project, about 1,200 units. Each unit has about 1,044 square meter per unit kind of density, which is generally quite big. That's why you go into Jadescape, you feel wow, the place quite generous, or feels quite good. Emerald Katong, I took it as an example because that was one of the hot shot project, right? It's about 916. Okay, whereas for Penrith and Skye, interestingly, even though Skye at Holland has more units, but their density revolves quite similar, 931 versus 941. So I think in general sense, both projects shares similarity in terms of the density per unit. Okay, so if we look at the next one as a comparison in terms of condos profitability in that area, which is what most people will want to find out also, because profitability also links to a bit to the demand in the area, which means the owner can sell at a generally good amount of profit without having to incur a loss, which means that the area has a good demand, or rather buyers don't mind parting a certain amount of profit to the seller. Okay, so if we do that as a comparison, within 500 meters for Skye at Holland, okay, there is about 10 projects that we can look at. Interestingly, for Skye at Holland, it is largely surrounded if you look at just within the Holland MRT area, right, very small little projects that has not a lot of units. On average, if you look at this amount, right, it is about maybe 50, 70 on average number of units. Only one Holland village break the barrier at 296 units. Even at 296 units, they are 100% profitable, or rather zero non-profitable transactions, because owners there also might have a certain amount of holding power, and Holland area I think can justify for a good amount of rent to cover the mortgage. So there's no reason for the owner to like forced to sell for take a loss or take a L, you know, in younger terms generation. Take a L. Okay, so in generally speaking, out of the 10 projects, okay, 2 of them has a bit of non-profitable, which is also very little. Like the Fort only has 2 transactions out of the last 5 years. By the way, this is a 5 years context, okay? Out of the last 5 years, only 2 transactions is non-profitable. The remaining 16 are profitable. Also in Loft at Holland, 2 transactions are non-profitable. The rest are 9 of them are profitable. Okay, if you interestingly follow me through like Van Holland, which TOP's like last year, which is a very new project, you see that there's no transactions going on. I think this also indicates a certain amount of holding power for owners, condo owners in Holland area. And naturally, you will also understand that I guess Holland is the old money charm, right? They would have certain amount of buffer lah. They can hold the condo for quite extensive period of time, especially most of them are also freehold, so they are not likely to force sell. They are just rent it out and continue until maybe of certain time they see that there is a price that they are willing to accept, then they will move forward. So in general sense, I think Holland area in terms of price, security, profitability, still relatively okay, quite strong. Of course, comparing to Penrith, as I mentioned, it is a hotshot project. I have done a couple of resales there. You will expect only one project that is non-profitable, which is Alexis. Quite famous lah. It is a small freehold next to, ironically, 5-7 minutes to MRT, next to Anchorage, near to IKEA, but the project just doesn't perform very well. I think largely due to the large number of 1-2 bedroom small units over there. So you know, if you want to have a good deal, seemingly good deal, stay near town at a low PSF freehold, please go and look at Alexis near Queenstown MRT. Other than that, the rest of the leasehold, which is quite interesting, for example, Commonwealth Towers, Sterling Residence, Queens, and Margaret View all have quite good performance, except for Commonwealth Towers. Maybe there's only 5 transactions that's non-profitable, 1.99%, versus the 249 transactions that are very profitable. Same for Queen's Peak, only 3 transactions are not profitable, 1.52%, versus 195 of them which are very profitable. And I went to deep dive a bit also. You can do a bit of research on your own. They are usually the smaller units, like the 1 bedrooms that are not really moving that well. I think that is also because maybe 1 bedroom demand in the housing area might not be as strong, or the owners bought in at quite a high price, because I saw one of the transactions is the last TOP unit. They bought quite a high price, and then they didn't allow the price to mature, right? Because you bought in at phase 3, the last phase, you should also wait for quite a while. Then again, coming to think about it, have serving some of the landlords that are 1 bedroom, right? They have collected enough rent for the past 4, 5, 6, 7 years. They feel that it's good enough because they actually need the money back. So they don't mind taking a bit of the loss, maybe 10, 15, 20,000, just turn the unit around, and then they can use the money for something else, or maybe to upgrade to a bigger place. Okay, so largely unprofitable projects within Penrith is the 1 bedrooms. And fortunately, Penrith doesn't have 1 bedrooms, because nowadays also not very common for developers to do 1 bedroom already. They are moving on to 2 bed, 1 bath minimally. Okay, so that would be the second point of comparison for condo profitability. So both areas shows quite reasonable profitable transactions. This I think is a good attribute, that they are quite similar in certain sense, or their attributes. Okay, next is proximity to MRT station. Obviously everybody knows Penrith is very, very near the MRT. Okay, it is apparently fully sheltered. Then again, you'll be walking through the HDB blocks. It is just next to the Alexandra Linear Park Connector. Okay, whereas for Skye at Holland, yes, if you have been to the new 1 Holland Village, it is just right next to it, beside also to 1 Holland Village residences, which means to say it is very near to exit C or exit B of 1 Holland Village MRT station. I guesstimate, I haven't walked yet, but I'm due to go and walk also lah. It should be about a 5, maximum 6 minutes walk. Here and there sheltered probably because you have to cut through the shop houses ma. Which I also feel that it is very similar to Penrith in such a sense. They are not so far apart. Like I'm putting you probably at, say for example, Nava Grove, that area there's no MRT at all, or Pine Tree there's no MRT at all. I think if I use that as an example, I use that example, then that will be a drastic difference because that is at least 4-5 bus stops away. So essentially, Skye, Holland and Penrith quite similar in terms of proximity to MRT, which is very important for on-stay people because likely if you stay near town, you might not want to buy a car, you just want to be near the MRT station, easy to get you to the interchange, for example, like like Holland Village. 2 stops, 3 stops down, you at Botanic Garden, you can go to you can go to the downtown line, for example. If not, you can take backwards to Buona Vista, then you can go to the east-west line, you can go to the west side, or you can go down to CBD as well. Okay, so this allows a bit of the convenience for sure, being near the MRT. So if you ask me to summarize, proximity MRT, both are good. Okay, number 4th point. Surrounding primary school. I think this is also a very important point for sure, especially for families. They want to know what kind of chances can they get into a good school. There's no bad school, just normal schools, what kind of selection there is. So if you look at Skye at Holland, there's no any primary school within 1 kilometer. Most of them are between 1 to 2 kilometers. For example, Fairfield Methodist. For example, Henry Park Primary, Nanyang Primary, and Newtown Primary School, of which the first 3 primary schools are fantastic. They should be the top tier primary schools that some families will target for. And in my opinion, I think it could also serve well for families that has already had their kid in the school already through alumni, through other bases. So then you don't really need that kind of 1 to 2 kilometers requirement for your kid, for your second or your third kid to go into the area. And also which means that your kid can actually take a bus back to your home quite near lah, because it's within 1 to 2 kilometers. Okay, versus Penrith. So for Penrith, I'm quite surprised because Alexandra Primary School is an upcoming primary school in the Queenstown Redhill area, but it is not within 1 kilometer, unfortunately. Within 1 kilometer is Queenstown Primary School, and I will be quite sure that Queenstown Primary School will be an upcoming primary school because it is surrounded by a lot of HDB clusters. Comparatively last time, why do I say so? Comparatively last time, you don't really have so much of kids going to that school. Higher probability of kids, I guess higher probability of scoring well, and that brings up the school overall aggregate, right? Probably. Okay, so I think that happens to Alexandra Primary School. But anyway, coming back, so there's 3 primary schools that are involved. Queenstown Primary School, 1 kilometer. Within 1 to 2 kilometer, Alexandra Primary School and Gan Eng Seng Primary School. Okay, so essentially both are quite similar because within 1 kilometer, there's only 1 for Penrith, none for Skye, and within 1 to 2, in fact, Skye and Holland has more branded primary schools that are kind of sought after versus Penrith. Okay, so this is for the comparison in the primary school segment. If you are looking at surrounding condo supply, this is actually very important because this actually allows us to see in terms of supply or the competition of the listings available. If in case next time you want to let go down the road, what can we expect? But of course, having said this, number of listings changes over time lah. Sold up again, someone wants to sell. So this is just a rough benchmark. Then again, if you rewind back to watch my video in March period about Margaret Drive being a good GLS, I did talk about the number of listings available seemingly in Penrith area, Queenstown area. Is quite consistent, which I will explain to you subsequently. So let's look at Skye at Holland first. So if you look at, I just did a search. For example, One Holland Village residents have 296 units, of which there's 62 1 bedroom, 145 2 bedrooms, 79 3 bedrooms, 9 4 bedrooms, and 2 5 bedrooms, so on and so forth, so that you can see that the total number of condos 500 meters around Holland is about 585 units, of which there is 170 of 1 bedrooms, 237 of 2 bedrooms, 110 of 3 bedrooms, 43 4 bedrooms, and 2 5 bedrooms altogether around Skye at Holland. Okay, so versus the listing that is available as of September 2025 on Property Guru. Okay, so if you do a search, okay, there's 22 units of 1 bedrooms available for sale. That represents 12.9% of the total supply over there. Okay, there's 27 number of 2 bedrooms available for sale. That presents 11.4%. 15 units of 3 bedrooms. That presents 13.6%. And 8 listings of 4 bedrooms, 18.6%. And only 1 5 bedroom available in the area for sale. So what does the percentage mean? Let's compare it to Queenstown. Then you can see the drastic difference already. Because to sum it up, a quick run through. Queenstown area, 5 projects, total number of units 3,871, which is easily 6 times more than Holland area. Okay, number of 1 bed, most of the units type will be about 6 times smaller, obviously. But if you look at the number of listings available as of September, 1 bedrooms is only 7.8% compared to Holland, there is 12.9%, significantly more. Okay, 2 bedrooms 3.1%, which is also significantly lower. 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms 3%, which is also significantly lower. 4 bedrooms 2.7%. They are all below the 10% mark. So what does this imply is, I feel that, which means to say there's quite a number of own stay people in Queenstown area, and not many people are willing to sell their house probably, and that results in very low number of listings also, which is also good in most sense, because that also helps you to have some price security, because supply demand, right, less supply demand consistent, that means you can likely to call for a slightly higher pricing. Whereas at Skye at Holland, maybe you don't get this kind of advantage. Okay, then again, it does not represent the future moving forward in the next 5 to 10 years, because there's the next part whereby there will be a few HDB classes coming into Holland area, and this might drive some demand, because maybe some of the, because it's going to be expensive to buy a HDB in Holland for sure. These buyers generally also should be quite well to do, maybe come from the surrounding or the landed houses near their parents, so they can have an alternative choice, maybe at your place, Skye at Holland, or maybe at One Holland Village. So this also indirectly drives in some demand. So essentially, for this comparison, of course, Penrith is skewed towards Penrith. The area is natural audience, natural demand. And it comes to think about it, Sterling residents, you know, when you ask anyone, what projects do you recommend, or you ask any agent, what projects do you recommend? Sterling residents, Commonwealth Towers, you know. So I think being out of sight, out of mind for the time being. But then Holland, as it gradually builds up, you can see that how the government has changed the area, which I'll talk about it in the quality of life. I think that will drive natural demand into the area as well. Okay, so this is for comparison. If you look at surrounding condo supply versus the listings available, I think it's skewed towards Penrith. Okay, so if we were to look at the HDB clusters, because frankly speaking, come on, HDB, you are the richest people that we need you to upgrade so that you can buy the condo from us. No, I'm just saying that HDB generally forms a very good, organic, strong domestic demand that helps to drive the aspirations to upgrade. So having HDB clusters or being near HDB clusters has been proven, especially in Queenstown area, that it has helped to drive the condos prices indirectly. Why do I say so? In 2018, when I just marketed my friend's Commonwealth Towers, and surrounding HDB hasn't MOP yet, namely Skyview, Skye Terrace, it is actually quite challenging to meet the price. But then when we fast forward in 2020, when I remarketed it again at the price that he wants to call for, so he went on to rent. So rent out the place. So when 2020, when we went out to market the place, it was a breeze, because then onwards, there are literally HDB upgraders. They sold their HDB for close to $1 million, 900 plus, easily for them to come back to buy at $1.7 million. Okay, so proven cases. In a Penrith area, there is 10 HDB clusters up and coming as well. Namely, Skye Terrace already present, Skyview already present, Skye Park going to MOP, Dawson Vista MOP last year, so is for Far Heights. Skye Oasis haven't MOP yet, coming up in the next 2 to 3 years. Skye Residence haven't yet, also next 2 to 3 years. Sterling Horizon, Queensway Canopy, and Queen's Arc, they are going to be under construction ready in the next 2 years, I believe so. Do you know that Skye at Holland also got 10 HDB clusters? So this area seems to match each other in certain sense when I do more and more research. Maybe off my mind, I guess 4 developers and 2 developers confirm they got chit chat lah during that period, because the land is bought at the same period of time, July, August last year. So I think they also got do what I have done before lah. Then they got sit down and say, okay, since it's the same, somebody you take I'm sure Penrith sought after developer also smart one, they want also. So maybe they got some chit chat. Okay, since they are so similar, I take Skye at Holland, you take Penrith. I guess lah, this is what I guess, and I won't be surprised they got talk among themselves. Anyway, so as I do more, I start to realize that they're quite similar. Like, HDB clusters is the same. Skye at Holland, what kind of HDB clusters you get? Holland Vista, that is the new and upcoming one in the next few years. If I'm not wrong, construction done in next 57 months as I was reading. Buona Vista Court, which is just next to Skye at Holland. Gilmore Natura, Gilmore Ascent, Gilmore Edge. Gilmore Natura, Gilmore Ascent, which is under construction now, going to be ready soon. Gilmore Edge, which is where my sister stays. I put her there. I choose the unit for her. Okay, so maybe if you're watching, okay, so Gilmore Edge, Gilmore Valley, okay, so they are about, if I'm not wrong, 8 to 9 years condo, okay. Then Ulu Pandan Banks, Ulu Pandan Glades, which are also going to be coming up in the next 3 to 4 years, if I'm not wrong, because they just did the hoarding and the piling. And then finally, of course, is Dover Garden, a bit forgotten, but it's right nearer to Fairfield Methodist area. Also about 10 to 11 or 12 years HDB. So why I chose these few clusters, because these are the newer clusters, the new generation of owners. Then when I talk to them, upgrading is not foreign. It can be an option, especially if they feel that it is comparable. Say for example, they are used to staying in Holland, Gilmore, Buona Vista area. I give you back to stay in the condo in the area within the price that you want. I think high chance they will take it. If I put you all the way to a new EC in Bukit Batok or Tengah, no offense to people there, but they might not want to take it because they're really used to the convenience of this area, and maybe their kids or their family revolves around this. Which brings me on to my next part of the story. Okay, number point 7, quality of life. I think a lot of real estate agents sometimes missed out this portion lah. We talk about numbers, talk about figures, but home is where the heart is. So if you really heart this area, you like this area, you like this neighborhood, and I think Holland really has a certain amount of charm. As simple as you can test out with your friends. If you ask your friend where you stay, Holland, wow. See that little wow effect. And I like it how the government has changed Holland after the MRT is out. Because I remember in my NTU days, when I can start driving, right? Holland is a place that we need to drive, need to take a bus to go there. And then where One Holland Village is, those Gen Z you never see before, it's actually a multi-story car park that you have to park over there. But we still find that Holland is like a very in place, fun place to go. And naturally, with One Holland Village, have you went down on the weekend, Sunday to One Holland Village? Phew, it is like a lifestyle place. People wearing athleisure, working out attires, walking their dog. It's kind of like, I just came back from UK lah. No offense. I think it's like Camden Park, Camden Market without the colourful things at Camden lah. But it feels really like that. People are all very chill. It's a nice place, very homely kind of feel. So I think if you ask me to compare Holland with new old world charm like Chipby Garden, new things over at One Holland Village, and the in-between along the Lorong Mambong, if I'm not wrong, that whole stretch of cafe bars, right? I think Holland still appeals in terms of aesthetics, appeal in terms of the accessibility. Versus Penrith. If you see the image that I tried to Google, Penrith is a traditional town that is being modernized with a lot of new HDB because it has Queensway Shopping Centre, very old school kind of place. Nothing bad, it's just that it is dated. So it's the same for Anchor Point, which is just next to Anchorage, and Dawson Place. Finally, with more HDB people, Dawson Place seems to be more alive because when I collected keys, when I went to my friend's house at Skye Terrace, when he just collected keys, Dawson Place is like, wow, very interesting, very old kind of mall lah. Okay, so good thing is that there's some rejuvenation in Margaret area with the Margaret hawker coming up. So to me, it is still not as charming or as attractive a place as compared to staying at Holland. So if you ask me, unfortunately, nothing wrong with being staying at Queenstown, Penrith area. I feel that at Holland, you have an elevated kind of quality of life. So this point goes to Skye at Holland for being able to give the residents there literally like a kind of like a town, but not so town kind of feel. But of course, if you like a bit quieter kind of lifestyle, you know, just a simple stroll linear at the linear park at Alexandra, you can also walk to Dempsey, or you want to walk down to Tanling. I think of course Penrith could be a choice for you. Nothing bad of course, it's just about a difference in the quality of life. Okay, so kudos to people at Holland, because my own place is at Holland also. Okay, so finally, when we want to talk about the last part, which is price gap, this is also quite an interesting topic to look at, because I also purposely choose this as everyone has seen this year's launches all have a price gap with the resale condos in that area, basically because of the harmonization ruling, which means the net space is smaller, your overall quantum also shrinks very comparable to the resale in that area. And that is where a lot of real estate salesperson would sell you, buying back in 2021, buying back in 2020, or even 2019 prices. Okay, yes and no. It really depends on what you're looking for. If that size doesn't fit you, that quantum doesn't make sense to you also, because technically speaking, you are going for a smaller place. Then again, it is what it has to be. We have to accept moving forward. And smaller house also not too bad, easy to manage. Okay, so if you look at Skye at Holland, if you look at the starting from 2 bed 1 bath, okay, 581 square feet, the price I quoted here is my optimistic projection of what is likely, and I gave a range. So I think optimistically, starting from price maybe 2,850, given based on what has been transacted in the last few launches at River Valley, right up to an average price of 3,200. Average price 3,200, because that is the average price for River Green close to. And also that is kind of like, I think, my tolerance also. Okay lah, 3,200, the 2 bed 1 bath. If I have a very high floor unit, because it is a skyscraper effect, right? Don't forget. Okay, I'm willing to pay unblocked views at around $1.859 million. Okay, for 2 bed 2 bath, okay, also depends on your budget. Okay, it should be around the range of $1.93 million to $2.16 million. 3 bedroom, which is only 915 square feet. I hope they can do smaller, but they didn't. They do 915, which is still quite comfortable, because smaller means it's also more palatable in terms of the budget. And we are looking at a $2.6 million for 2,850 square PSF, sorry, and up to $2.928 million. Okay, for 4 bedroom at 1,238 square feet, okay, it is $3.528 million, up to $3.961 million. So for a 4 bedroom, it is 1,238 square feet at $3.528 million, up to $3.961 million. And interestingly, fortunately, they have a 5 bedroom configuration at Skye Holland. So if you ask me, if you have the budget of $5 to $5.6 million, you are right sizing from a landed house, you want to enjoy the stay in Holland, the convenience, okay, you are probably a Westie also. I think, I'm sure Skye Holland is a good choice, because surrounding don't have this option. Only, I think, one Holland Village, if you look at it, and the price point is 11.402, probably a penthouse unit. So essentially, the price gap at the same 5 bedroom, okay, is 56.8% higher. Okay, so if you compare it to the recent one Holland Village residents, okay, for those that have transacted in the last 2 to 5 years, you are actually at the lower range as compared to them. Essentially, I took the average of the price range of 2,800 PSF to 3,200 PSF. I took the average and I compare it against the last few transacted at one Holland Village. And this is the kind of a price gap we're looking at, between 4.6 for 2 bedrooms, 5.6 for 2 bed 2 bath, 9.6% lower your entry price as compared to if you buy in at Skye at Holland. Okay, of course, nonetheless, if you compare to Urban Edge, it's a bit skewed because Urban Edge is quite old. It's about 18 years old, even though it's a freehold. So I think there's some renovation costs involved. Whereas if we jump onto the 3 bedrooms, you can see the difference already because of the size difference. So it's a 3.28 last transacted versus 2.9 or 2.6 to 2.9 difference at Skye at Holland. Okay, so there's still a price gap. Okay, most interesting is to compare it with the last few newest TOP project in the last 2 years. Leiden Green, for example. Okay, so Leiden Green, location not as fantastic, near the flyover, okay, not near the MRT. Amenities wise, not so fantastic at Empress Market. Okay, 2 bed, 1 bath is commanding at around actually transacted at $1.75 million versus if I can pick around $1.75 million, 2 bed, 1 bath at Skye at Holland, which do you think is a better choice? I think the answer is very clear. Okay, so next is 2 bed 2 bath, Leiden Green, 1.996975 average price. Okay, which is actually you just top up a bit more. I guess if you're at the price range already, you top up to $2 million, you can get a 2 bed 2 bath at a more convenient location with amenities. Skye at Holland is the choice. Okay, versus 3 bedrooms are already at $2.8 million, and these are the 958 square feet, the 900 eras. Okay, so if you ask me, also if you can wait for the house to be completed in the next 3 to 4 years, I think Skye at Holland is still a better choice. Okay, and for sure, if you look at the 4 bedrooms at $5 million versus the 4 bedroom range less than $5 million at $3.5 million, Skye at Holland is hands down no-brainer in that area lah. Okay, so this is how I look at for Skye at Holland price gap range. Okay, if you do Penrith, quite interesting. If you are a developer, you have been following the last few launches, you can see the take-up rate all the way from River Valley, Great Wall, all the way up in District 3. You will probably want to price it a bit differently, I think. Maybe we'll be pricing it a bit more bullish because if I'm not wrong, last year when they bought this piece of land, CBRE did talk about a certain price of 2004 PSF, but I think those are gone with the days because CBRE did not account for the surge in people buying in November 2024 leading up to this year. Take-up rate is still quite strong. So I guess if you can get a very good ballot number, okay, you can get starting from 2005, that is excellent. If not, I think you could also tolerance up to 2009 PSF. That is roughly for me lah, because that makes the quantum a bit on the higher side already, and therefore it means that your holding period has to be a bit longer lah. That naturally is. So if you're going to stay there for a long period, doesn't mean that you don't care about PSF. It's just that it then falls back onto your affordability. Is this something that you can afford, you feel comfortable? Okay, so if you look at 2 bed 1 bath configuration, 614 square feet, $1.53 million up to $1.78 million for Penrith. Okay, 2 bed 2 bath, 678 square feet, $1.695 million all the way up to $1.966 million. Okay, 3 bedroom, 786 square feet, very interesting layout, 786 square feet. I just very curious how they're going to do the 786. I hope it's attractive. Okay, very comparable to 883 at Sterling. Okay, $1.965 million up to $2.279 million. And the 4 bedroom, 1173 square feet, $2.9 million all the way up to $3.4 million. If you do a comparison with Sterling, prices haven't caught up that fast for Sterling yet. You can see for the 2 bedrooms. But prices has caught up for the 3 and the 4 bedrooms. So essentially, if you ask me, if you have the budget of up to $3.5 million, if you have a good ballot number, no brainer. No, just go for a Penrith 4 bedroom. I think you should feel quite safe because basically, not easy to find a 3 bedroom, a 4 bedroom or a big 3 bedroom in that vicinity as well. That's why they can command such a price with the upcoming another five clusters of HDB that's going to MOP in the slate to MOP in the next 10 to 15 years. I think you should be doing very fine. Okay, Commonwealth Towers as a comparison, okay, there is still a bit of Commonwealth Towers prices are a bit more attractive. They are negative 4.4% for the 2 bedrooms. They only have 2 bed 2 bath configuration, by the way. Okay, if it's a 3 bedroom, they are slightly on the higher side, being $2.348 million versus the one at Penrith at 5.3% more. Okay, whereas the 4 bedrooms are a bit cheaper at $2.96 million transacted at Commonwealth Towers, but it's not easy to find a 4 bedroom available at Commonwealth Towers. Have been searching for quite a while already, so not so easy. I should have quite a bit of demand. Okay, first, Queen's Peak. You can see Queen's Peak is slightly more attractive in terms of the pricing. Last transacted 2 bed 1 bath $1.35 million. Okay, 2 bed 2 bath $1.63 million, $35 million. 3 bedrooms $1.982 million, and the 4 bedroom $3.27 million. If you are a person that's looking for Queenstown, a bit of a budget, you don't mind the balcony being a bit of an irregular shape, Queen's Peak 2 bed 1 bath is the unit for you. 2 bed 2 bath if you're sharing with a partner could also be a choice for you. Okay, 3 bedrooms, you got to be careful because the 3 bedrooms, unfortunately, the common rooms can only fit a single bed. Very hard to fit a study table as well. So that is where the challenge comes in, and because I'm on the ground, you can see, so roughly know. So that is where owners also have to take a bit of a little differential on their selling price, and maybe that is why their 3 bedrooms are all just below $2 million. Okay, so it's pretty much attractive if you can grapple with the common rooms being a bit smaller, can only fit single bed, closet, and maybe a very small study table. That's about it. Okay, next we look at Queens. Okay, Queens only have 2 bed 2 bath, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, and because of the size, even though it's old, it is quite expensive. It is at $1.6 million, which is very close to the entry price of Penrith, if you ask me to do a comparison. And of course, if you are someone that values something newer, this is a lot newer, 23 years newer than Queens, and you do not have to do any renovation involved. And henceforth, I think it is also a bit of a no-brainer choice to look at Penrith if you are considering Queens condo. Okay, and so it's the same for the 3 bedrooms. They are going for $2.08 million, and the 4 bedrooms at $2.7 million. They are very close resale prices to Penrith. So if you ask me again, I have been doing this for the past close to 10 years. In my early part of my career, I have never seen new launch cheaper or same price as resale. It's because of this harmonization rule, things happen like this. So it is, to me, no-brainer. If you can go, you have a waiting time, you're okay with the waiting time, 3-4 years, go ahead. I think choosing something new, at least it is more up to date when it comes to the resale market down the road in the future. Okay, so finally, Margaret View, a bit further, that's why you see the prices are a bit more attractive. But one key thing about Margaret View that I can share with everyone is that I think the 4 bedroom there at Margaret View can consider, because the last transacted for a 4 bedroom at $2.604 million, which is very much lower than what has been transacted in the whole of Queenstown area. Even though the location might be a bit not so attractive, 1 bus stops away from the MRT station, I think this price of 300K difference can justify for entry into Margaret View 4 bedroom. And I have checked already, it is, if I'm not wrong, facing northeast, so it's a morning sun, not the west sun unit. So, and you have the unblocked view of the GCB area, right, all the way up towards the HDB cluster. So if you are someone that has a budget to work around, if there's listing available also lah. Okay, I think not easy to get someone to sell because it's own stay ma. Okay, so if there's something available, you can negotiate down. I think a 4 bedroom at Margaret View resale is worth considering. Okay, so having mentioned about the price gap between Skye Holland and Penrith, I think both presents very good opportunities. If you want to literally compare to one that is side by side, like Skye Holland versus One Holland Village, obviously Skye Holland looks very, very attractive, very, very safe entry price, because you have a good amount of 5.6 to 9.6 kind of price gap with the resale unit at One Holland Village. Okay, so having mentioned the 8-point factor, let's have our conclusion to see whether is Skye Holland a good alternative to Penrith. Okay, so if the first point we talk about is land density, 9.38, 9.41, quite similar. So I think okay, no, Skye at Holland I can accept. Go there, feels not the feeling you get is probably similar to the feeling you get at Penrith. Okay, minus the landscaping. Surrounding condo profitability, both only has 2 condos that are non-profitable. The rest seems quite okay. And on top of that, Skye at Holland seems like seemingly like the owners there all have old money charm, all have holding power, which is very important because you don't throw prices and sell, and that makes the exit a bit challenged, right? Okay, so the next thing is proximity to MRT. Both are equally near the MRT. Primary school wise, Skye at Holland only 1 to 2 kilometers, but they are all good schools, okay, or top schools. Okay, then in Penrith you have Queenstown Primary School, which is an upcoming school as well. Okay, so if you compare in terms of surrounding supply, obviously Skye at Holland has a bit more supply in the area. Maybe the natural audience haven't really come into Holland yet. Then again, you also don't want too much natural audience in the area because it becomes a bit like Penrith like that. Developers will know that they want to sought after this piece of land because they know that it's going to be a kind of like a, not say super easy sell, but there's natural demand in the area. Okay, so basically Skye at Holland still might have an advantage in such a case. In terms of HDB classes, they are the same. Okay, in terms of quality of life, I think to me, this is just to me, Skye at Holland has better options, everything is renewed, refreshed, and it is also if you are Singaporean, when someone say Holland, you know where is it, you know, like, oh, we can chill at Holland, you know. So I think Skye at Holland has a better quality of life versus being at Penrith. And finally, in terms of price gap, of course, if any agent wants to sell you Skye at Holland, they will use one Holland Village and tell you that, wow, there's a big price gap, right? But essentially, most important is that at least you know that your entry price is pretty safe because you're close to the surrounding resale transacted. Okay, so if you ask me, at Skye at Holland, there is also a pretty good price gap acceptable versus at Penrith. So all in all, my conclusion is that Skye at Holland actually is not too bad lah, you know. It's quite a good comparable to Penrith, especially they are in the same area because they are just 3 MRT stops away from each other. Queenstown, Commonwealth, and then Buona Vista, right? So it's still in the area. So I feel that if you are a person that you want to get a unit at Penrith, but you don't have, unfortunately your queue number sucks lah. Okay, can't think of a better word. Then maybe Skye at Holland is a choice for you. And the key thing is that Skye at Holland also launches first. So if you want to have a discussion on this, you know, have a more in-depth discussion, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a comparison so that at totality you know your decision whether should we go for Skye at Holland first. Let's focus on that instead of worrying that should I consider Penrith, because by the time you want to do Penrith, right, which is a later launch if I'm not wrong, you come back to Skye at Holland, they might not have the unit of the choice left. So I think what I can do is to give you a very clear game plan of what you want to do with your purchase in the next 2 to 3 months. That should be all that I want to mention today. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you, bye bye.